Hi, I'm Robert, and this is my DConf online talk. It's all fake test data generation in D. I think we all have been there. You need a random username or random forename. You write a very simple function, return Mike, and you're happy for at least a while. Then suddenly you realize that having everybody's forename be Mike doesn't really make sense for your test data, so you create a second function where you use the choice function out of std_random to select one of the three. But then you realize only having English names doesn't really make sense, so you create another function where you select some Chinese names. And you sort of rinse and repeat, and this gets annoying very quickly. And then suddenly you think, oh, I can be smart, so maybe I can create a street name by combining one of the name functions that you have created with like a suffix. And obviously you can do that, but this surely gets annoying very quickly. And you think, surely somebody has done this before. And somebody has. So there's an awesome project called faker.js. And as the suffix in this case implies, it's the JavaScript project. So what is actually faker.js? Faker.js is basically all the random data that you could ever need to test whatever you're doing in all the languages that you ever wanted to have or didn't even know existed. So faker.js offers test data for addresses, zip codes, street names, finance related like account details, transaction related stuff, hacker jargon even, different names, different numbers, test text, whatever you can imagine, faker.js has it. And it has that in pretty much all the languages. And if a specific language doesn't offer it, it can always fall back to sort of the base language, which in this case is English. So you have different dialects for English, you have different dialects for French, for German, for Spanish, for Dutch, for Portuguese. And overall, there are over 30 languages and 55 unique dialects altogether. The only problem is it's JavaScript, and calling JavaScript from D is possible, but it's a lot of work. So maybe there's something we can do to turn this into D directly. So what I did at that point is I looked at the different files and how they looked internally of the faker.js project. And what I found is this file similar to the one on the left. So this is in the English language and the finance subfolder, and this file is the account type JS file. And the whole file is printed on the left. There are different account types. And even if you haven't programmed much JavaScript, you probably can see that that is an array, and the module export, probably an educated guess, would lead you to think that this file exports this array. And that is totally correct. And my idea was, well, how hard can it be to read in this file and create a function that returns one of those string elements or then one of those array elements? And that's basically how this project started. So what the transpiler I have created wants to do is basically take all those files and turn them into classes and methods on those classes on the right. So let's say we want to translate exactly this file. What we would do is export or take the array, copy it over into a D file, and take the file path and turn that into the method's name. So and as D is normally a camel case language, we have to turn the snake case file names into camel case. That was actually by far the most difficult bit. The rest is mostly trivial stuff. So after we have done that, we can again use the choice function out of std_random to pick a random element out of the array here. And to not have to reseed the random number generator on every function call, we use sort of a function local random number generator here. Unfortunately, those aren't all file formats that I found. Another one is basically this style, where the hash mark needs to replace with, or every hash mark and every string needs to be replaced with digits. So you can probably think how that goes. You copy that over and you have a generic function that replaces inside of a string all the hash digits with numbers. And also you will probably have seen it already. There's another oddity of JavaScript where instead of writing module export as on the slide before, here they write export default and then just an array without any equal sign. So the generator I created basically has to accommodate those different versions here. And also another thing is this string here on the left is just single tick surrounded and not double tick surrounded as the last one. So we also have to fix that up when copying the data over. But overall, that's also not that difficult, just more work, and sort of the fear is that there are many more different versions. The next thing that is sort of the most elaborate of the three different file formats, if I may say so, or call them file formats, is a mustache-like file format. Basically, all the text inside the double curly braces have to be replaced on the D side with a function called to that attribute. So let's, for instance, go to line 2 of that name.js file. Here we first take a prefix and then have a separation space. Then we take the first name, have a separation space, and the last name. And on the D side, we basically have to translate those strings into the correct function calls. So we have to get our camel casing 100% right and also get the prefix of the function names right. So on line 3 of the name function on the D side, we take the name uppercase P prefix and concatenate that with a space, then take the first name, concatenate it with a space, and take the last name. And then rinse and repeat for all the different versions. So I already sort of teased that, as JavaScript is an interesting language that has evolved over time. There are many ways of exporting data to the outside of a file, and sort of in JavaScript a file again is sort of the encapsulating unit. And in all of faker.js, I found those 6 prefixes. So there are 3 different ways of saying module export, and there are 3 different ways of saying export default. For whatever object freeze does, I'm not really sure, but probably something similar to cons or mutable in DSpace, but probably a lot less nice. And then also, as JavaScript doesn't necessarily require a semicolon to finish a declaration, you can find the different versions of square and curly braces and also parentheses with or without semicolons. And that is pretty much our transpiler from JavaScript TypeScript to D. And the rest is mostly boring std string and std format work. You have to, as I said, you have to handle single tick strings, double tick strings, and sometimes the array concatenations are a bit weird. But mostly that translation tool is very, very boring. But to a degree it handles JavaScript and also TypeScript without actually understanding what it's doing. And the annoying bit is there has to be some hand translation in it. So there are a couple of functions that are basically JavaScript implementations of creating IBAN numbers of Swift codes, and writing an automatic translator for those would have been overkill. I mean, to a degree, you will find all the possible JavaScript or TypeScript that you can ever find in those functions. And I didn't want to go there. This was sort of, Friday, I need some test data project. Let's see how far we can get until lunch project kind of things. So I just did what you had to do, did some hand translation. And that's pretty much the translation from JavaScript to TypeScript. The other thing that is maybe a tiny bit controversial classes are awesome in this instance. So not all the languages provide all the different attributes. So for instance, some languages will not have street names implemented, but some others will. And there's sort of a base language case, which is English. And whenever you are using a language that doesn't offer any of the attributes that you're asking for, or any of the functions that you're asking for, it will fall back to English. And for that case, classes are just awesome. So even though classes in D are, or classes in D aren't really that popular, for this is an awesome choice. I mean, the biggest overhead in this, I mean, there's no data generation. It's basically just one virtual call to get to the actual array to get the data. So not always dismiss classes when they actually might make sense. Actually think about it. Sometimes classes are just awesome. And this example here is one of those that is heavily used in faked, as the resulting library is called, that is generated here. So what do you actually get? So the library is called faked that we have, and it's on code.dlang, and it consists of 57 files, sorry, and is over 220,000 lines long, and has like, so the base case language, so English, has 148 different methods, and most of the sort of top 5 languages re-implement those. And the generator, or the transpiler, or however you want to call it, is very, very simple. It is 4 files and not even 3,000 lines. And I would guess about 800 of those are hands translated JavaScript functions. So very, very simple generator. And the really big benefit from this compared to other faker.js clones that you can find in Rust and Golang is whenever they provide, or whenever they release a new version, I just clone the new faker.js version, run the generator, usually fix up the generator in 20 minutes, then rerun the generator and do a new release. And when they add a new language, just rerun the generator and be done. And all the other people and all the other languages have to, as far as I can see it, do the hand translation again and see where the differences are and who has time for that. So to conclude this very short presentation about faked and translating JavaScript and TypeScript to D, npm, so the code.dlang for JavaScript has 1.2 million packages. Usually, for most cases, there are no new ideas. Whatever you think is unique about your library, npm has it. Like, I bet you drinks at the next physical DConf that the library that you want to implement exists in npm. So grab what you can and give nothing back. Thank you. That was my presentation. See you soon.